Hey, welcome to the Lovelda Show, Women of Power podcast. I'm your host, Lovelda Vincenzi, and this is the show where women share their personal power tools, which I define as the tools, techniques, or strategies which have enabled their success in life and business. I ask all of my guests to be real, raw, honest, authentic, and vulnerable, dare I say. So this is a girl chat show like no other, where we really do dive into what it is to be a powerful woman, the real tools behind a woman's success. Now, if you're on this channel, do hit that subscribe button right now and hit the bell to make sure that you're notified when new shows are added. You can also subscribe to find us on Instagram, which is at Lovelda Show. You'll find all links that have been shared in the show in the show notes. And right now we're gonna hop straight over whilst I do a audio introduction before we jump into the full show. So let's get started. Hey, chicas! Welcome to the Lovelda Show, Women of Power podcast, the show where women share their personal power tools, the techniques, strategies, and ways of being which have enabled their business and life success. I'm your host, Lovelda Vincenzi, an international MC and host, and female speaking business coach on a mission to unleash authentic, powerful female voices onto the world. This is a girl chat show like no other, as all of my guests get real, raw, and authentic whilst sharing pure gold. Now, in today's episode, we'll be uncovering the power tools of Suzy Walker. Suzy is the editor-in-chief of Psychology's magazine, the UK's #1 mindful living magazine. Named as one of the top 10 coaches in the country, Suzy is also founder of Big Leap Life Limited and author of Making the Big Leap and The Big Peace. Suzy sadly lost her parents as a teenager. Not too long after, she married her husband, and it's not until many years later that she was able to see that she had looked to him as a saviour during that phase of her life. They divorced after about 16 years, and then at the age of 50, following much internal work, Suzy went on to make the bold move to change her name as a symbol of owning her own identity and belonging to herself. So in this episode, we talk about identity and sense of self. Suzy shares her personal journey with stepping fully into her own power with a real rawness and authenticity, which I personally, sincerely admire and am very, very grateful for. Now, listen, if you are ready to kind of go on that journey and really get your voice and expertise out to a wider group of people, use the link in the show notes to download your copy of my Speaker Marketing Blueprint. Essentially, it's your guide to building speaker marketing assets that match and reflect your expertise and increase your speaker fee regardless of if you are brand new to speaking or ready to level up your speaking career. Now, you will find all links to my latest offers in the show notes, including the link to my LinkedIn profile intensive program, which is out and the doors are about to close quite soon. So you might want to click on that straight away. You'll also find links to everything that my guests have shared in the show in the notes. So make sure you check them out. Ooh, and PS, if you want to make sure that you get your regular fix of this show, hit that subscribe button to get updates as soon as a new show is added, or subscribe to get notifications directly in your inbox, and hit us up on Instagram at Lovelda Show. Now, that is more than enough from me for now, because we really need to go and understand what identity is. So let's get on with the show. Hey, chicas, welcome back to the Lovelda Show, Women of Power podcast. If you remember from at the end of the last show, I did tell you that we started our own Instagram channel. Whoop, whoop. If you have not yet headed over there, it's really easy to find Lovelda Show at Lovelda Show on Instagram. Do follow us. Let us know what you're learning from listening into the podcast. And send us any questions. I'm looking forward to being able to read some of the questions and comments out on the show. So do that. So that's what I wanted to get out of the way first. And secondly, the doors are still currently open to to my program where we go through your LinkedIn profile in a great degree of detail. So check that out as well. The link is in the bio. But enough about all of me plugs and all of that kind of good stuff. Y'all didn't come to listen to that, did you? You came to listen to what's going on in this show. So I had to bring this guest on for a number of reasons, apart from the fact that she is the editor of Psychology's magazine, which is just like mind-blowing. I really wanted to speak to her in particular about definitions of self. Because listen, ladies, y'all, I don't know one woman out there who hasn't been in some sort of relationship before, or in some way has defined herself by something other than who she is and got lost. I've been there myself. I've been in relationships, left the relationship, and then wondered who the heck I dog am are. Well, Suzy went so far as to change her name. So today I really want to dive into how, like, what do we define self as, and what that journey was for her, and why she made such a big, incredible, bold move to actually change her name totally when all of her work has been in a previous name. Anyhow, let's jump into it. Welcome to the show, Suzy Walker.
Hello.
Hi, Suzy.
Hello.
I mean, it was ages when we met. We met in the most bizarre way at this, what was it? It was a event in Nottingham. I can't even remember what year it was.
Well,
and
it was up north. I'm a northerner, so I love going up north. And yes, we did. We met up north, and I just loved your energy and your enthusiasm. And I was like, wow, who's this? So we met and we had coffee and tea, and now we're talking now. It's fantastic.
I know there was a few years in between, but I never forgot. I was like, that Suzy was lovely, but you're always so busy, so much stuff going on, which is wonderful. So I kind of want to understand from you, well, maybe it would help if we start with the journey as to why you changed your name, because when we met, you were not Suzy Walker.
No, so I was Suzy Greaves, and that was my married name. So I had been divorced for maybe 10 years, but because it was my professional name, it was my byline. I'm a journalist, so it was my byline. I'd written 2 books. It was on the cover of my books. Professionally, that's who I was known as. But I was coming up to my 50th birthday, and I was talking, I had my coach, I was working with my coach, and I was talking about what I wanted to create next for I call it the third act of my life. And I thought, okay, what does that look like for me? And there's a part of wanting just to go, okay, I want a fresh start, I want a new beginning. And it came out, well, what would it be like if I changed my name? And I wanted to change my name because being married, and I don't know why I took somebody else's name in the beginning. I think it was, I was very young when I got married. I was 23. And so I was very traditional. I had no concept of feminism or anything when I was young. I was this young thing. And I was a romantic, so I took his name, and 20 odd years later, I still had his name, and I wasn't married to him. And I was like, what was I thinking? I had this idea of that, you give up your name and you belong to a man, and I thought I didn't want to belong to anyone. I wanted to belong to myself, and so I said, right, I'm going to change my name. And obviously that's a huge thing because it was my professional name. But I said, no, that's what I want to do. And then I had to go through the process of what was I going to call myself. I didn't want to go back to my maiden name because, again, my maiden name was like, you're getting the name of your father and then you're getting your name of your husband. And like, stuff that. I want to claim my own name. And so we went through all the kind of things about what am I going to, because it's all right, it's a great decision to make. But then it's like, well, what are you going to call yourself? And honestly, that process is hilarious because you're kind of playing on all these kind of porn star names, all sorts of things. And like, oh, what can I call myself? One was like Suzy Honeywell. I loved that one. Or Suzy Collywell. I had all sorts of brilliant names to try out. And I was like, no. It had to be meaningful for me. But I am a massive, okay, so this sounds really slightly nuts, but I am a massive Star Wars fan. Skywalker, the Skywalker story is huge for me. When I was a young child, it was that film that kind of saved me from the darkness. I understand the dark and the light and all of that. And all my friends could roll their eyes when I say this. But someone said, why don't you call yourself Suzy Skywalker? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, no, I was joking. I was joking. And I was like, why I know Suzy Skywalker? Because, and okay, so and then my lovely aunt who helped me when I was young is called Walker. So I thought, actually, it's a really good. So I say it's Suzy Walker with a silent sky. But I decided, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And then I was reading a book, a Buddhist book, about 2 days later. And it was talking about dakinis, which are these goddesses that are kind of a link between the earth and the sky. And she says, there isn't really a translation of dakini, but it means skywalker. And I was like, oh my God, it's a sign. And that was it. So I called myself Suzy Walker, because I thought if I call myself, so that was it. So first of all, it's saying, you know, what's this about? For me, it was about belonging to myself. It's about, as a woman, as a feminist, standing on my own 2 feet for my third act. So I maybe belonged to my father in my first act, belonged to my husband in my second act, and I wanted to belong to myself in my third act. And with that came a new name. And it's symbolic, you know, I mean, it's a little bit me with my Star Wars obsession, but also with the spiritual connection with the dakinis. And so on my 50th birthday, I had this I invited 30 of my friends, and I said, I'm changing my name. You know, Suzy Skywalker is born this on the 4th of May, 1968. It was when I was born. This is it. And they thought I was joking. They thought, oh yeah, whatever, ho, ho, ho. But no, and I gave them all kind of little things of Suzy Skywalker is born. And that's how I started my 50th year. So it was fun, but it's also incredibly symbolic around how you reinvent yourself and who you are, you know, who you want to be. It's a kind of, you know, and part of it is acknowledging your past, honoring your past, but also then looking forward and saying, okay, well, what does this mean for me? So yeah.
What, I mean, there's so much in that story in terms of it's, you know, it was personal to you, and it was about kind of saying, actually, I recognize a loss in self in different phases, and I really just want to be self. You know, I don't want to be connected with anybody else anymore. I kind of, you know, this is who I am, and I want to be able to represent that in its wholeness. And this name feels heavy now. It doesn't feel like me. It feels like this thing I've carried around because I felt like I had to professionally, not because I wanted it, just because it felt like, you know, actually professionally, maybe something's going to happen. So I'm curious, did it have an impact at all professionally? Did anybody care?
No, it didn't. I mean, the biggest, I think the one kind of regret I have is that it's, you know, it's a name on my books. So it's a little bit, I think, confusing for people. The biggest problem is just the bloody admin. You know what I mean? It's like all the bank accounts and all the posts and your credit rating. Never thought about that you've got to change that and all of that stuff. So that is a pain in the bum. But once you're through that, it's an entirely positive decision if you make it symbolic.
And I know that for you, it wasn't just about the name change. Actually, there was a whole process that led to a culmination, which was, I'm going to almost seal this with a change of name, because it's not necessary. Don't just go out and say, oh, I want to reclaim myself, so I'm going to go change my name. I'm telling you, it's a lot of paperwork. And the longer you've been on the planet, trust me, the more paperwork you're going to have to do. It just gets worse. But there wasn't, you know, you say the name change in itself was a symbolic piece. What else did you do that kind of led to that process of finally kind of getting to that point of going, actually, what feels right to, as the cherry on the top, is to change my name to make this process complete?
Okay, so the process I went through was I went to therapy, and I lost my parents when I was a teenager. They both died of cancer very early in my life, which was obviously quite traumatic. And my poor ex-husband, I grabbed hold of him, I think, when I was aged about 21, 22, and we were married within 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, and you know, we had a long marriage, 16 years, so we didn't do too badly. But I think a lot of what I was doing, I mean, unbeknownst to us, I mean, it was obviously all unconscious, but I was doing a lot of grieving, and my husband's name was Greaves. So it was Suzy Greaves. So I think part of it was I processed a lot, I've grieved enough, and I don't want to grieve anymore. So there was a big part of that as well, that I was ready to just let go of the kind of agony and the trauma of my formative years, and to create this kind of happier version of my life. I think that was part of it as well. And so it wasn't, it was honoring, the role that he played in my life and that his family played in my life. But he'd moved on, he'd remarried, and he's the father of my child, and all of those things. I didn't want it to be a kind of a negative thing for him, but I think he was quite happy for me to give up his name. So it was more of a gentle letting go, of a kind of a coping mechanism, I think. I mean, again, I didn't know what that was really about. I mean, there was many good things about our marriage, and it was probably quite heavy for him to carry as well. But there was a sense of, he rescued me, and then with therapy, I realized, it was time to rescue myself, and that's kind of what I did. That's what I've been doing. That's the journey I've been on. And I think I rescued myself, and I was strong enough to stand on my own 2 feet. Obviously, it's taken me a while. And I'm not talking about financially, because I've always stood on my own 2 feet financially. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about emotionally. How to be able to manage your emotions. And that's why I suppose I'm editor of Psychologies, and why I'm so passionate about it, is because I believe that if I hadn't had therapy and coaching and done the self-development work, then I'm not sure I would even be here. I know that sounds rather dramatic, but it's being able to have people to hold you and to help you unpick things, and to help you navigate a way out of the darkness. I mean, that's why it's and I don't know how people do that without that kind of, I mean, yes, good friends and all of those things, but to get the kind of level of self-awareness that you need to be able to know that there's hope and there's light and there's a whole new life around that, and that anything can be changed. For me, coaching and therapy and the self-awareness that you can garner is one of the most powerful life transformative things. So it is about going into the darkness. I mean, I'm a big fan of Star Wars, as I said, because of the hero's journey, but actually recently I've been discovering the heroine's journey. And the hero's journey is about kind of fighting dragons in the outside world, literally with a sword, a lot of the external things, which I had to do. As a teenager, I had to learn how to support myself, how to get a job when, the kind of safety net has been taken away from
the
me.
whole support structure that you've grown up with, it's just gone. Suddenly
just did. So so there was a very kind of, I had to go on a hero's journey of literally physically learning how to support myself, and learning to drive, and learning how to do the money thing and all of those things. So I had to learn how to do that. But I think as I became safer and know how to do that, how to operate, how to function as a functioning human being, then I could allow myself to go on the heroine's journey, which is the deep dive into the kind of psychology of strength and hope and inspiration, and really looking at the demons as well, and tackling those. So I think we all fall into the, if I'll be happy when I, X, Y, I get a great job, or I get a husband, or I do all of these things. And we look to the external things, don't we, to save us, to rescue us, to help us. But this last part of my journey is, I mean, I kind of knew it. This was kind of the, I understood it. I resonated with that wisdom that it is all within. But I think for the, on this recent kind of therapeutic journey, I truly learned that it is only when you look within, only when you look within that you can unhook and be happy. And then it's taken me on this journey of now, you know, living quite a nomadic lifestyle. I bought a canal boat and a camper van, and I kind of got rid of all my possessions. And because once you realize that there's nothing out there that's going to save you, you're free
to just do it the way that you want to do it, in the way that resonates with you.
And just be with yourself, you know.
And I think there's so much in that, especially when you tap on that idea of almost sort of intellectually understanding it and knowing it. And I had a mentor for a while who used to say there's a significant difference between knowing something and owning it. And I think often we avoid a journey of real self-discovery because we know it. But when you go on the journey, your experience and your understanding is so much different from intellectually understanding, yes, I get it. It's within me. And trust me, I mean, when you've done, because and I don't profess to, be there. I don't think there's ever a time when you're there. I think it kind of comes up in different layers. But that notion of really being able to say, I'm going to go to that place that terrifies me. I'm going to explore that thing that I'm most scared of. I'm going to have that conversation with myself. I'm finally going to sit and look that thing that I didn't want to look at in the mirror fully and allow it to break down. I mean, I remember when I started my journey, I was on this course, and I had this meetup every month, and I'd come home. I was living with my sister, and I'd come home and my sister's like, why the hell are you putting yourself through this? Because I was just a wreck, just a total, emotional wreck. And I remember saying to, some of my coaches and people I was working with at the time, like, am I ever going to get out of this? I feel like all I'm doing is crying and all I'm doing is breaking down. Like, is there another side to it? And I think that is sometimes the fear, because I remember a specific case and I said, I don't want to cry because I don't know if I'll stop. Like, I feel like if I let myself fall apart, I don't know that I'm going to be able to pull it back together again. I feel like I just need to hold it together. I remember him saying, he goes, you'll eventually get bored. He said, I just want you to cry. You will eventually get bored. And I stayed in my room for about 3 or 4 days and I just cried. My sister found me in the bathroom, literally found me on the bathroom floor one morning, curled up on a ball. She didn't know what the hell to do. She was just like, what the hell is going on here? I wouldn't open the curtains. I just decided I was going to be like in the movies with the ice cream in my bed. I'm not talking to anybody. It's a disaster. And after about 4 days, he was absolutely right. I got bored. I was like, all right, I feel like I'm done with this now. But I love what you say there about really going there and taking yourself on that journey. And I think it's a beautiful gift that we can give ourselves, but it does take courage.
It's the bravest I've ever been. I think, to take on therapy, to go into therapy, you have to be really, really brave, because as you say, I mean, and because, I've got all the knowledge that I have, my poor therapist, I'm very skilled, like, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. And she's like, yeah, but how did that make you feel? Yeah, fine. That's fine. That's fine. I had it very happy. Yeah, it was all cool. And then, as you go in, and as you say, I think the fear is, I mean, I'm a single parent. So for me, it's like, okay, we can go there, but I have to function. Yeah. Because I've got my son to bring up. And my fear was, like you, is, you can't, you can't lose it completely. So for me, therapy was great because it was just like 50 minutes twice a month that allowed me to kind of break down. And what I learned was, okay, I could completely break down in 50 minutes, but then I could put myself back together and get back out there. Yeah. And what it feels like is like a pressure cooker. And then over time, you're slowly letting the pressure out. And you talk about it and it doesn't destroy you. What you learn is, what therapy taught me is that you learn to feel your feelings and they don't destroy you. And actually they're your friends. And what happens is we keep it down, we keep stuck. And by doing that, we get kind of, we learn to manage that, and we learn weird ways. We're like this, like a pretzel basically, but it's not, the energy can't flow.
Yeah.
So often, there's all this kind of information about manifesting and, thinking positive thoughts. But if you're thinking all of that, and that's kind of where I was, I was a coach, I had all of that, but there was some really dark stuff underneath that I needed to address. And until I'd done that, the energy couldn't flow. And as soon as I've addressed that, everything has aligned. Everything. I mean, it's still tough, and I've just started a new relationship, and we still argue, and there's still stuff, but at least I'm not afraid of it anymore. I'm not afraid of that. But it's not that you're not triggered anymore, but you can handle it more, and you can find new ways to do different things. It's a very interesting process, but you have to be prepared to be very brave.
Did you find that there was any particular emotion you didn't want to feel?
Sadness. Yeah, for me it was grief and anger. Actually, anger, and to be honest, anger is the one I still struggle with this day. And it's sometimes because I used to say, if I let my anger out, I will destroy buildings. And she says, what does anger look like? And I said, it's a big gorilla like King Kong. And King Kong is literally stripping away buildings. Yeah. I thought my anger would destroy people. It was interesting. So sadness and anger were mine.
What's interesting is it was similar for me. I couldn't do anger. I could pretty much express any other emotion, but I would not express anger, because I just thought, if I see red, I don't know if I'm coming back. Somebody's going to get hurt. Like I don't know what's going to happen. And I was too scared to go there and express it. It would be a case of, do you know what? I just need to stand away, and I'll come back and calmly explain to you why I feel like you've been an absolute prick. But I couldn't just, some people have these explants, and what would happen is I'd end up attracting people who just wanted to press my buttons to get me to that point. I'm going to smash things up in here. This is not a space I want to go. So I was just curious if there was an emotion for you as well, where you just were like, The others I can do. I can cry. I can do disappointment. I can do hurt. I don't do anger. That was me. And it's taken a while for me to be like, seriously, I'm angry. And just to be able to give myself permission to express that emotion, which was the one that was the common denominator for me that I wouldn't express.
So I think also it's this thing about expressing an emotion. And it's like, when people said that, I was like, what do you mean? How do you do that? I don't even know what that means. So, because what I don't want to do is what I call it acting out, I don't want to kind of vomit my anger all over someone. But for me, it's kind of noticing wow, I'm really angry right now. So, but it doesn't mean I have to, so I'm just in that process of learning to go, that's not really working for me, is my new phrase.
That doesn't work for me.
Yeah. So there's anger, and then for me it's kind of, so having trusted friends to go, I just need to rant for 5 minutes, and we all go, yeah, rant. Okay, and then we go, okay, so what's more enlightened response, or what can I do differently in that moment? So that really helps. That's really helped. And the other thing is journaling, writing the rant down, the fury, and that for me, writing has always been a massive help with processing emotions. So that's helped. So it feels like I can that I'm not going to hurt somebody. Mm-hmm. I don't mean physically, although maybe I do, but more just I don't want to
leave those sort of emotional scars where you've lashed out in a moment of anger, and then now you've got this whole cleanup operation. I'm similar. It's like, I really don't want to say something that I can't take back. Even if I apologize, I can't take it back. The words were out of my mouth. It was in the heat of the moment. And like you said, it's finding alternative ways to be able to just give it an outlet, so it's not kind of compressed in here. It's like fully processed and out. And if that's writing it down and then burning it, or whatever it is that you need to do just to get to that space. I mean, this conversation in terms of finding oneself and that journey, I think thank you so much for being so open about what your journey has been, because I'm so confident it's going to touch so many people, especially where, you know, that idea of I've got to hold it together. I think it's the sort of conversation we don't have, but yet many of us are experiencing in one way, shape or form. And sometimes just hearing somebody else, hearing somebody else kind of express that, yeah, it was a problem too, and there's ways around it, but it is going to take a little bit of courage, and it's going to take going to places maybe you've wanted to avoid for years, and it might be a bit bumpy for a while, but the other side of that is a true expression of self. And honestly, I feel like that's really what we're all striving for, which is I want to be able to be fully expressed. And I love that you said nobody cared really when you changed your name. It's like nothing changed. Nothing changed.
Well, I think this is the thing. One of the biggest lessons I've learned in life is that, my mother used to say to me, you used to go to a do or a party and you'd be so self-conscious and worried what your people are. She said, no one cares. No, but no one cares because everyone's so worried about themselves. And I know that sounds a bit mean, but it is true. It's like no one, the main thing is what does it mean to you? Stop caring. I'm such a people pleaser and have been in my life. So it's been a big one for me to overcome. But it's the kind of, it's such freedom and thinking, no one's really that interested in me. Do you know what I mean? They're really not. So I can do what I want,
Yeah.
So it's good.
And at least that way you're living your fullest, happiest, most expressed version of your life. And I think that's ultimately the most important, and going on that journey is the best gift that one can give themselves.
Yeah.
Suzy, I'm wondering from your perspective, because your journey, you're the editor of Psychology's magazine, you have this real understanding, especially having also gone on your own personal internal journey around mindset and psychology and what makes us who we are. In terms of women and power, what would you define as the essence of woman's power?
And maybe not just a woman, maybe all of our power, but for me, it's all about authenticity. It's about being aligned. So, in my job, I get to meet some very externally powerful women, that seem to be, and it's fantastic, and I nod and smile and go through, but the people who make me literally turn around and stare are the people that are so themselves, who are just, I find it fascinating, and that's what I aspire to be. It's not about celebrity, or it's not about wealth, or for me it's authenticity. That's the thing. I just kind of stare and I think, oh my goodness, what is that all about? And how do you, wow, for me it's that. I think the more, so Brené Brown, for example, when she is so authentically herself,
mm-hmm.
and just a powerhouse, and talking about vulnerability in a way. So it's about our ability to be vulnerable but smart about it. It's not just about being, telling, that you've got it. You don't care what other people think, and but you care about other people.
Yeah.
And when that's happening is that you are caring about other people, because you've got yourself out of the way, which is, it's a journey we're all in, and we've all got egos, and we've all got our, I notice my ego all the time popping up, and my aspiration is to drop that. You know what I mean? My little, it's, I'm trying to accept that part of myself, but I think it's interesting, with the Trumps, conversation, and we say that in spiritual circles that everything in the world is a reflection of who we are.
Mm.
And I'm like, Trump, no, nothing,
not in me.
No, that's right. And it's it's like, well, what is that kind of, I have a teenage son at the moment, and there's something about my son's swagger, the way he swaggers, that he takes no responsibility, and that teenage boy thing. And I think, that's a bit like the Trump thing. That's what he does. It's that ridiculous thing of just ego gone mad.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, okay, where in me do that I have those little swaggers, or
mm-hmm.
And it's kind of noticing that. So for me, women, true power is to drop the ego, to be humble, to talk honestly about how things are for you. And I find that irresistibly attractive in male and females.
I love that. And it's been a common theme actually on this show. And I find it really fascinating because I work solely with women, and the number of times I was having this conversation with my husband just last night, and the number of times that there's almost this comparison. Oh, you know, there's us, and then like, look at what they're up to. And, you know, like just triggered by what everybody else is up to. And there's no authenticity in that place, because why should you be bothered what they're up to and how they're going and what's going on there for them? And what that does is, you know, we almost kind of see that and then reflect it back within ourselves and try to be more like them. Like try to be more, you know, I want to be more like them. But the irony is the flip side of it, the people we connect with the most deeply are the ones when we go, they're just human. Like they're just a good person who just cares. And there's no, you know, they've got all of this success, but there's no show or any of that. You can sit down and have a normal human conversation with them.
Yeah.
And so I think when we're so attached to the what it looks like and all of that stuff, we kind of forget to just be us, which has pretty much been the theme of this conversation. It's, you know, authentically being yourself. But it is a journey. It means jumping on calls and telling people when you're not in a good mood, rather than, you know, the default answers we have to that question. How are you doing? Great. And really, you've just had a big fight, bust up with your partner. The kids have just been screaming at you, but you jump on the phone, you say, I'm fine.
Yeah. And I think it's also just, I mean, what I'm learning is to be a little bit more, I don't know, just quietly dealing with my own stuff rather than having to bring it. I think therapy and coaching, it allows you a space, doesn't it, for you to process that stuff. So I just think, I'm in a really foul mood because I know what that is. That's been triggered, and I think to myself, okay, I'll deal with that in my therapy session, and I can almost look forward to it because I'm like, okay, that's been triggered. I'll figure that out.
I've got a space for dealing with that.
I don't need to bring it into my conversation with my colleague,
Mm-hmm.
or you know what I mean, when I'm dealing with the team, you know what I mean? I mean, you know, I'm ahead of, there's 10 of us in the team. And sometimes, you know, you've got all this stuff going on, you know, in your life. And I don't need to kind of spill it over my team.
Yeah.
Vomit over people. Just for me, and I can just go, I'll deal with that. And so there's a quieter space that you can turn up. So as you say, how are you? I'm okay. And I don't need to go into loads of detail. I don't need to process it with them, you know, unless, you know, good friends, obviously.
Yeah.
I vomit all over them. But, you know, in terms of professionally, I don't know, it helps. If you know you've got a safe space to process stuff, it helps.
And I think that's a good point. We don't need, it's not about going to every all and sundry. So, you know, if I get on a call with a client, sometimes I'll just tell them, look, I'm having a bit of a rough day for no other reason, but it clears the space. So because I verbalized it, it's like, I'm fine to do this call. Like I'm actually very much looking forward to it. But yeah, you know, there's something going on in the back of my mind right now. And that I've said it means that it's clear. So now I'm fully present. But if I try and kind of just, you know, it's still that I'd just rather just say, it was tough. Not, you know, having one of those days, you know, you get the good days, you get your bad days. I'm in one of the middle of the round days, you know, that's where I'm at today. But, you know, that's just how it is. But it's not necessary. But I love that you brought it up because it's not necessarily about a complete purge. Be appropriate, people. Don't tell everybody everything all the time. People don't need to hear that. Some people haven't signed up for it. Be professional. And at the same time, understand that sometimes the context helps to create the space where if somebody understands that right now you're having a rough day, they might just say, should we just move the call to another day? Because this is actually one of those ones we need to go deep. And that's might be exactly what you need. So there's a balancing act in not showing up in a false way in order, I've got this all together, but really everything is absolutely falling apart. So you're not really fully with it. And giving yourself permission to take that time off when you need it. But also not word vomiting. I'm going to take that from you, Suzy. Not word vomiting all all of your emotional baggage on everybody who comes into your path. They didn't ask for it. Okay. They just wanted to know how your day was. Give them the polite response and keep on moving. You know, the person sat next to you on the bus did not need that day. Okay.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. So Suzy, here we're going to come to the meaty part in terms of your power tools. So I ask all of my guests this question, and given the conversation that we've just had, I'm super excited to hear what your power tools have been over the years, especially since changing your name, the insight that you'd have had from going through that process and evaluating for yourself, like genuinely what has been the things that have been pivotal for your success in life and business. So we ask for three. What would you say is your first power tool?
I would say self-awareness. So I think the more self-aware we can become of our thoughts, of our beliefs, how we're operating, extrovert, introvert, you know, all of those things, the more you can understand your levers and own it and go, oh, that's what's going on, the better. So therapy, coaching, if you can, I mean, for me, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, which is a book about a 12-week course around creativity, amazing. Everyone should do that. Whether it's just self-help books that you read, the more self-awareness that you can garner about the way you operate, what's holding you back, what's keeps you going in tough times, the more successful you will be in life. Do the inner work. So my friend says, oh my God, I'm not spending that money on therapy. But she goes on 3 holidays a year, but is miserable. Yeah. So, you know, okay, spend that money on your inner adventure, on your inner travel.
You can do both, but I completely echo with you in terms of self-awareness, because you're not aware of what's going on. You can't make a different choice. You're just on autopilot.
Yeah. I think it's most important.
And what would be your second power tool then? So self-awareness is the first one, and the second one is...
I think the second is knowing what your strengths are. So I used to be the sort of person who tried to do everything, even though I'm not very good at it. And it's just, I'm really good at the big vision, and I'm terrible at detail. I'm really terrible at detail. I'm a terrible speller. I mean, I'm the editor of a national magazine. I'm a terrible speller. But I'm absolutely fantastic at seeing opportunities, about putting business visions together, about, you know, creating new ideas, all of those things. So what I found is I went from being a coach, and I ran my own coaching company, to being the editor of Psychologies. When I was running my own company, I did have, you know, a freelance assistant to help me, but I didn't have a team. And I'm much more effective when I have a team who are really, really good at what they do. So having a designer who is brilliant, having a photographer who knows what they're doing, you know, having a team of people, you can put together a really amazing product. So it's being able to go, okay, and I know, I mean, with my coaching company, the reason why I didn't have a big team was because it's, you know, finances, you know, it's running a business.
Yeah.
But even in a small way, it's like, really stop trying to kind of get better at something you're okay at. Just focus on what you're really, really good at. And when you put your thing, and then find the other people, there's some things you really, really hate, definitely get someone to do that. I mean, my tax, you know, doing my tax things, oh my goodness, do you know what I mean? It was literally just, you know, receipts thrown in a plastic bag. And once a year I used to go insane and thought, I'll never do this again, but I did it. Yeah. But now I've got this system where, you know, somebody else just does it all for me. It's amazing. So I would say definitely focus on your strengths. And the third power tool, which may make you laugh, but is sleep. You know, sleep is my superpower. And what I mean that, so for me, it's very, I'm very ideas led. I'm a very creative person, but I can often forget about my body. You know, get a dog, because a dog makes you go out 4 or 5 times a day to take it for a walk. So it's about how to get back into your body. If you are someone like me, who you live in your head a lot, then you've got to have these mechanisms that you enjoy and that you love. And don't forget about rest and sleep. Again, I'm a very driven person. I'm a very optimistic person, so I always take on too much. And you know, sleep if I can just get a good 8 hours sleep, then everything will be okay. But it's more of a symbol of, if I'm not getting 8 hours sleep, it means I'm not looking after myself and not being embodied. A lot of the coaching and therapy work can keep you all up here, and what you need to be is down here. So, you know, moving your body, sleeping, in terms of, without that, I'm a mess.
I think it's taken me a while as well to learn what routines I fundamentally need to be able to operate. And anytime I kind of deviate from certain things, over time, I just find that I'm so in my head, and it's almost like I'm confused and I can't think, and the anxiety starts to kick in, and it just all kind of gets a little bit much. And for you, it's sleep. It's, you know, if I'm not sleeping, that's already just telling me I'm off. Like, I'm on a path that's going to lead me down I'm going down a path. I know it's a dead end. Nothing good comes when I go down this path. But if you can get back into the habit of sleeping, rest, self-care in whatever way, shape or form that works for you, I think that's really important to remember. Because similar to you, I'm also the sort of person, I get excited, I get really busy, and then next thing, for me, it's eating. If I stop, and I know when I'm really busy, I just stop eating. I can literally get to 4 o'clock in the afternoon and then be like, why is my brain hurting? Oh yeah, that food thing. I didn't do that today. So I really have to think.
Yeah, and water too, isn't it? And rehydrating. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I haven't done any water today, and you're wondering why you're bad tempered, and you know, and it's like, kind of treat yourself like a child, you know, and think, okay, you know, you need a banana, you need, you know, whatever it is, every 3 hours. You know, that's what you got to do. Or, you know, protein, corn sausages, whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
if you've got to sit with fruit and nuts on your desk, so you just have something to pick at as you go, then you do, you know, it's figuring out a way, like you said, that's easy and fun and simple for you to do, so you can stay in those sorts of routines. Yeah. Suzy, you've been absolutely fabulous, and thank you so much for your really open, vulnerable, very raw, very authentic, uninhibited shares. I really do appreciate that you've been so open with us today. There'll be people listening to this who've been moved, or, you know, you've spoken to the pit of their soul and they're kind of like, I need to connect with this woman. What is the best way of people connecting with you or connecting with Psychologies?
Well, at Psychologies, we have an amazing community, the Life Leap Club. If you subscribe to Psychologies, you can join this amazing community. I mean, I go there when I'm feeling a bit low or a bit down. I'll go, and the ambassadors in our club are amazing. And there's free coaching, all sorts of things going on there. So subscribe to Psychologies, psychologies.co.uk, and you can join the Life Leap Club automatically.
Oh, fantastic. All those links will be in the show notes, so you can go subscribe and you get access to all of this stuff that Suzy's been talking about, and it's like an immediate plug-in support system, like boom, here you go, ready to go, rock and roll. Yeah. We have talked about a huge amount today. I mean, well, a lot. And we've gone very deep into what do we say? Identity, sense of self, returning to self, looking after oneself, that journey of kind of self-discovery. If there was one thing that you could leave our guests with today, what would that be?
I think what I would say, and what I always say to the Psychologies readers, is that no matter how dark it is, that there is a way out. No, there is help and hope, and you don't need to be alone. You can reach out and someone will come, someone will help you. And that's what Psychologies is all about. We're all about, you know, it might not be therapy for you, it might not be coaching for you, but it might be, we do articles about sea swimming and how it helped people with breakdowns. It might be joining, you know, sorry. So it may be joining, you know, a club. It may be running a marathon, but there's always a way to make yourself feel better. There's always a way to figure it out. You don't need to do it alone.
Beautiful. You don't need to do it alone. I know in current times at the moment with the pandemic, even outside of the pandemic, there are people out there who are having a tough time. And it's a beautiful reminder, Suzy, that you do not need to do it alone. There are places for you to go and check out Psychologies. There's a Facebook group as well. Get subscribed, join the club so you can have that support network around you. Sometimes it's not your friends and family. Sometimes with the best will in the world, they're too close. They don't know what to say. They want you well. Sometimes you really do need to seek the help outside of your current network, where you've just got a safe space where somebody's got no other agenda but to just professionally help you through whatever it is that you're going through. We have come to the end of the show today. Do remember, we are now live on Instagram, so it's at Lovelda Vincenzi on Instagram. Do check out all of the links in the show notes, so you can find all the links to Psychologies. You can also find the links to upcoming courses that I've got running, or download your own free copy of this the Speaker Marketing Blueprint. Until next time, Cheekers, remember, you do not need to do this alone, so do go out there and find the right sort of assistance for you. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you again, Suzy, for joining us today. Until next time, Cheekers. Ciao!